All right. So guys, where we're picking up is we're working with a buyer, right? And we've just walked out of the house and they're like, we love this house. We need to make an offer on this house. Okay. What comes next? And so understand this isn't a contract class. So we're not going to write a contract. We're going to talk about what all do I need to do to get ready to write the contract. What are best advice on sharing the contract. It's kind of almost a 10,000 foot view, not a what do I put in the blank. Okay, we're going to have a contract class. We're going to do a mock contract class where we'll actually fill the documents out. But this is more about the activity around putting together an offer and the things we want to do before we even start to fill the contracts out. Okay, so we're standing there. We want to make an offer. Are we ready to write an offer? Okay, and I would say they're ready. They're emotionally ready. Okay, but one of the things I want you to keep in mind is for a buyer that's ready to make an offer, what are they thinking about? When they tell you they want to make an offer, what criteria are they thinking about? Are they thinking about who the closing attorney is going to be?
No, they're thinking about money.
They're just thinking about price. Okay, and if you guys have looked at a contract yet, is there a lot more than price in a contract?
Yes.
Oh yeah, a whole lot more. Okay, so I want to get you guys through the steps. So when we go out and we meet with a seller and we sit down and we do our listing appointment, we brought everything with us so that we're ready to write a listing contract right there at the kitchen table. But when we go out and we look at a property, have we done all the homework and brought all of our documents with us to make an offer on that property? No, and I don't want you to, okay? Because the majority of the houses you're going to look at, you're not going to make an offer on, right? And we don't know yet, is this the one, okay? So as soon as that buyer says this is the one, that's when we've got to get really busy really quickly, okay? So one of the things that I want to make sure you guys know is hopefully we've already done some work to make sure that buyer is ready, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we should already have them in command. We set them up as a contact and put them into command, and we created an opportunity for them as soon as they raised their hand and said, I'm thinking about buying or selling. Okay, that's our pipeline report. That way we can look at what future business is coming. Okay, hopefully before we've gone out and looked at properties, we've already made sure that client's pre-qualified. Is there any reason for us to go look at a $300,000 house if our client can only afford a $200,000 house? No. Okay, and unless we've had them go through that pre-qualification process, we don't know if they can buy that house or not. Okay, so hopefully we've connected them with a lender and done that. Hopefully we've done a good job of setting expectations with the buyer. Okay, and where's the right place? Where's the right forum for setting expectations and letting them know here's what's to come?
The agreement.
What was that, Matt?
The buyer agreement.
Well, it's not just the buyer agreement, it's the buyer appointment. It's that buyer consultation where you sat down and you walked them through and say, hey, it's probably been a while since you bought a home. So I'm going to walk you through the sales process and talk to you about what we can expect at every single stage of it. Okay. And the natural conclusion of that appointment is they signed a buyer's brokerage agreement. Okay. And guys, I really don't want you out showing properties without a buyer's brokerage agreement in place. Okay. And there's two things for you to keep in mind with that. If I go, I have somebody that I have a relationship with, didn't know they were looking for a house, and they reach out to me and they're like, Trey, we found a house. Can you go show it to us? Well, I haven't had an appointment with them. I haven't got a buyer's brokerage agreement, but they want to go see a house this afternoon. Well, for a lot of agents, their temptation is jump in the car and go show that house. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you not to do that. I will give clients one house that we can go look at without a buyer's brokerage agreement. But I'm going to try and get the buyer's brokerage agreement before we go. I want to have that appointment before we go. Because if my first instinct is to jump in the car and go to the house, when is my opportunity to set expectations with them?
Never.
Never. Never. When we get to that house, what are they paying attention to? The house. Yeah, not me. Okay. And if they decide they love the house and they want to put an offer in on it, do they have any idea what's going on in the marketplace and what they may need to do to win that offer?
Probably.
Yeah. So hopefully before we ever went to look at that house, they're in command, there's an opportunity, they're pre-qualified. We did a really good job of setting expectations with them, and we've got a signed buyer's brokerage agreement. And those expectations are going to change over time, right? Because right now, what type of market are we in?
Sellers.
Sellers market. We're in a heavy sellers market right now. Do the offers we make look different today than the ones that were being made 2 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah. Are what sellers willing to do different than it was 2 years ago? Yeah. Okay. So understand that those expectations, we've always got to be in touch with the markets when we're setting the right expectations. But let's assume now that we have done all of this stuff. We've got our buyer's brokerage agreement in place. We went out, we showed the property, we found one they love. We want to make an offer on it. Well, what do we do first? Okay. Well, the three main categories of things that we need to do before we fill out the contract is we need to call the listing agent, call the lender, and we've got some prep work that needs to be done. Okay. And I'm going to go through and break that, but this starts in the driveway of the house when we're leaving. Okay. Or if they had to go back home and talk about it, as soon as they've made the phone call to me and said, hey, we decided we want to put in an offer, that's when this time period starts. Okay. And I'm going to let them know that, hey, that's fantastic. Okay. Before we start putting that offer together, I've got a little bit of work I need to do. Okay. I need to call the listing agent, call the lender, and I need to gather together all the information we need to put together a competitive offer. Okay. And they're going to head home, or they're going to go to lunch, or whatever they're going to do. I'm headed back to my office. Okay. And as soon as I get in the car, the very first phone call that I'm going to make is to that listing agent. Okay. First thing I want to do is make sure the house is still available. Okay. In today's market, is it possible that that house is under contract?
Yeah.
Yeah. And guys, that's one of the things that you're going to find that you're going to be really disappointed about is there's a lot of lazy agents out there. And they may not have updated their listing, may not have canceled their appointment with you, but they accepted an offer 3 hours ago. Okay. But the reason I want to call and talk to them is, one, find out if it's available. Okay. Two, I want to find out what's that seller looking for. There may be a lot of areas where my buyer is really flexible that we could alter our offer in such a way to make it more desirable. Okay. Because for every seller, is price the most important thing to them?
No.
Mm-mm. For some, it's going to be the speed. Okay. For some of them, it's going to be not just how fast we can do it. It may be how slow we can do it. Okay. We just wrote an offer yesterday that the closing date is 60 days from now. Okay. That's crazy long in today's market. You know, usually most sellers want to close within 30 days and are trying to get it as short as they possibly can. But this seller is having a home built and it's not going to be ready for 60 days. They don't want to have to move twice.
Mhm.
Okay. So they wanted a buyer that could wait 60 days for the property. It could be that they need to stay in the property for a week or two or a month after closing. Okay, that's important to that seller. It might be that they want somebody that is rock solid, absolutely gonna close. Okay, the strength of the borrower is really important to them because they've already been in 2 contracts that fell apart because the buyer couldn't get approved for the loan, even though they had a pre-qualification letter. So I'm gonna talk to that listing agent. What's the seller looking for? What can we put in our offer that's gonna make it as desirable as possible? Okay. And in today's market, that may include a very short due diligence. It might include waiving the appraisal contingency, waiving the financing contingency, or just having a really short financing contingency, or some guarantee that we'll pay X number of dollars over appraised value if it comes in low, okay? But I wanna know those things going in. I wanna find out if they have any offers on the property already. And if that seller is inclined, that listing agent, what's that best offer look like right now? What's it gonna take for us to win? Okay, because if they've already got an offer 25,000 over list price with no appraisal and no financing, cash offer, and my client doesn't have an extra $25,000 to put up, is there any reason for me to write the offer? No. So I need to know those sorts of things, okay? It's also a great opportunity for me to ask the listing agent if the seller's disclosures are up in the MLS, or can they send them to me, okay? And there's 4 seller's disclosures we might need. It's the seller's property disclosure, the community association disclosure, the lead-based paint disclosure, and the DeKalb plumbing disclosure, okay? Most of the time, it's just gonna be the seller's property disclosure and the community association disclosure. I don't ever ask the other agent, can you send them to me first? The first question I ask them is, are they already uploaded to Georgia MLS and FMLS? I'm going to assume that they did, made things easy for me. So I don't want them to come back and me ask them for it and they say, well, it's already in Georgia MLS or FMLS. I would rather ask, is it in Georgia MLS or FMLS? Let them tell me no, and ask them then, can they send it to me? Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then I want to let them know we are sending an offer. Okay, and don't forget that key point. We are sending an offer, and I should have it to you in 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours. Give yourself plenty of time, especially if this is one of your first ones that you've done, but let them know it's coming, because they may have a contract sitting on their desk that they're getting ready to sign. And if they know they have an offer coming in 3 hours, might they wait 3 hours for you instead of going ahead and signing that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing I want to do is send an offer over and then get a response back and go, oh, I'm so sorry, we went under contract 30 minutes ago. You know, oh, you know, if I had just called them. Okay. So make that phone call. All right. So that's why we're talking to the listing agent. The next thing I want to do is call the lender. And again, I can still do this on the drive back to my office, okay? Because I want to get that offer in as quickly as possible. But the first thing that I want them to do is to rerun the numbers, okay? And what I mean by that is that buyer got pre-qualified, okay? But when that lender did the pre-qualification, they had to make some assumptions, okay? They acted in generalities. They were like, well, we're gonna guess that the taxes are gonna be around this amount. We're going to guess that they don't have to pay county and city taxes. That they're only gonna be in an area that only has county taxes. We're gonna guess that the HOA fees are around this much, okay? So understand that pre-qualification has some flexibility in it. If we go find a property that's got high taxes, a high HOA, needs to pay both county and city taxes, well, my client may not pre-qualify for as much money anymore, okay? So I want to give them the exact property and let them rerun their numbers. And at the same time that they're doing that and making sure they're still pre-qualified, I'm gonna ask them, what do they estimate that the closing costs are gonna be? Okay, and again, that's gonna be an estimate because we don't know yet exactly what day we're gonna close and whether we're closing at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, but they're gonna get me fairly close, okay? Because as we start to build that offer, and in a different market, we might be asking the seller for some concessions to the closing cost. Okay, I need to know what my limits are on that and how much my clients may need. But in today's market, my clients only have so much money. We need to know how much can they afford to go over if that's something they want to do. The last thing I want them to do is say, yeah, we can go $10,000 over. We've got enough cash for that. But they didn't realize they needed $9,000 in closing costs also. And the deal fall apart because they only have the 10, they don't have 19. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want to know what that closing cost is so I can have good conversations with my client. I also want to verify the rate. Okay. The interest rate that they're going to pay on their loan. Okay, what is it they're pre-qualified for? A lot of lenders don't put that rate on their pre-qual letters. Okay, some of them do, and I can always take it off of it, but rates change on a daily basis. Okay, so I want to ask them again, you know, what's that rate? Because if we haven't found a house yet, the buyer probably hasn't locked to that rate, and we may be a little bit higher or lower than we originally thought we were. Or we may not have known a rate to begin with, but I'm going to need that number for my financing exhibit when I go to make the offer, okay? Then I want to, if it's a condo, that's the reason it's in parentheses, if it's a condo and my client's an FHA buyer, FHA has to approve the condo. So, and the lenders already have a list of approved condos. So I want to check with the lender and make sure that my condo that we want to put an offer in on is on that list, okay? And that we're not going to have an issue with that. And then if we're shopping at a different price point, I may need to get an updated letter, okay? We may have originally gotten a pre-qualification letter for $300, but I had talked with a lender and found out that they had a little bit of wiggle room in that, and they decided to increase their budget, and we're going to be putting in an offer for $320. Well, I don't want to send a pre-qualification letter for $300 when the house is $320,000. So I need to get an updated letter, and likewise, if we went the other direction, my clients are pre-qualified for $400,000. But we decided to buy a house for $310. I don't want the seller to feel like we've got all the room in the world to negotiate because my client can afford to pay a whole bunch more. Now, I don't usually send pre-qualification letters for exactly what my offer is. I like to go $5,000 or $10,000 over just to show that my clients are well qualified and there's a cushion that's in there. You do what works best for you. You'll find very often that the pre-qualification letters you get though are exactly what the offer is for. But I want to leave a little bit of room that if the seller feels they need to counter offer, that they know my client can accommodate. Okay, that we've got some room in there. Making sense so far?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Now, I've got some prep work to do, okay? Now I need to be back at my office, I need to be at my computer. So before we put this offer together, before I even have another conversation with my client, I wanna gather all my information together, okay? And the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back and review the listing. And I'm gonna look at details on that, okay? I wanna look at the listing history and see, has there been any price increases or price reductions? Has it been under contract before and has come back on the market?
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at a property and it went under contract, came back on the market 3 times. I'm gonna wanna talk to that listing agent and find out, hey, what happened before? Cause we may be stepping into a problem.
Mhm.
I'm also gonna look at any special instructions because sometimes that seller may have a preferred closing attorney and my buyer doesn't care who we close with. They just want the house, okay? So my offer is gonna look better if I'm using their preferred closing attorney. They may have given us some guidance. There may be highest and best. There may be instructions in there that says, we're not gonna respond to any offers until Monday.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I don't wanna put a time limit of offer for Saturday evening if they've already told me we're not gonna respond until Monday. I wanna make sure we give them plenty of time. So read those listings and you'd be amazed. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a seller for a second, okay? And I want you guys to know, or a listing agent, a seller's agent, every offer you make is being judged, okay? And if you send me an offer and I gave you instructions that I wanted it to go to this email address, or we needed this time limit on an offer, or we preferred this, and you just completely ignored that and didn't do what we asked you to do,
Mhm.
what do you think I think about your offer? What do I think about? Yeah, I think you're incompetent, or I think that you're inattentive. I think that you're gonna be a difficult agent to work with.
Yeah.
I wanna give my clients the best chance to have their offer accepted. So I'm gonna accommodate that listing agent as much as I can. Next thing I'm gonna need to do is I need to pull comps on the property, okay? Because one of the things I want you guys to wrap your head around is the listing price does not matter at all,
Mhm.
okay? The number that's gonna matter the most in the deal is gonna be the contract price and the appraised price. List price is never a factor in there.
Mhm.
And let's say that I have a house that's worth $350,000, but it's listed for $320,000, okay? What can I anticipate?
Higher offers.
Higher offers. There's probably gonna be multiple offers and they're gonna be above list price, okay? If I have a home that's worth $350,000, okay, but it's listed for $380,000, do I need to be offering over list price?
No.
Probably not.
I'm not serving my buyer client well. I'm setting them up to have issues with appraisal down the road and things likely to fall apart. So hopefully, ideally, what happens is I go to pull comps and I find out, you know what? That was a pretty sharp agent. They listed that house right at what market value is for the property. They priced it right, okay? Now we have a decision of how aggressive do we want to be, okay? And that's the conversation I have with my client. So, you know, understand that this information I'm getting is setting me up for the conversation I'm going to have next, which is with my buyer. You know, hey, I know the home's listed for $350,000, but as I look in the marketplace and what is sold, it looks like everything similar to this is selling around $320,000 to $325,000. You know, how aggressive do we want to be? And I love that question. How aggressive do we want to be? That helps me know how much they love the house. Okay. Listed at $350,000. It looks like it's priced right. How aggressive do we want to be? it's listed for 380, but I only think or listed for 350, but it looks like it's really worth 380. Okay, but that's where I expect the appraisal to come in. How aggressive do we want to be? I'm going to get different answers in each of those scenarios, but I need to know what that comparable values look like. Okay, the other place that is really going to help me is when it comes to list price versus sales price. Okay, so when I pull my comps, I want to print those comps out. Okay, and keep the best ones, because do you think you might get some pushback from your client on making offers over list price?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, but when I can show them, hey, here's this home that was listed for 320, it sold for 335. Here's this one that listed for 330, it sold for 335. Here's this one that was listed for 335 and it sold for 340. What trend are we seeing? Everything's selling above list price. And it's not just Trey telling them now that they need to be more aggressive with their offer. I've got the evidence that they need to. Okay. What about closing costs? You know, well, my dad said we need to make sure that the seller pays, you know, at least half the closing costs. Okay. Well, it tells us on the listings what was paid for closing costs. You know, well, on this deal, it sold for 335. The sellers gave 0. This one sold for 330. The sellers gave 0. This one sold for 340. The sellers gave 2,000. Okay. Your lender told me your closing costs are going to be about $9,000. Do you see any examples where sellers are willing to pay $5,000 toward closing costs?
Mm-mm.
So
Nope.
I'm gathering that information now so that when those objections come up, when those questions come up, I have the information in my hand to address them readily. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. All right. Next thing I want to do, if we have them, I want to review the disclosures. If the listing agent told me that they were in the MLS, I'm going to go to Georgia MLS or go to FMLS, and I'm going to download that seller's property disclosure, download that community association disclosure. I'm going to check my email if they didn't have it and they said they were going to email it to me. And I'm going to go ahead and print those out. I want to review them. But before I share them with my client, I want to look through them and see, hey, are there any known issues with the property? Do the HOA fees seem to be in line? Is there an added cost that they need to plan for initiation fees that maybe they hadn't thought about in buying that property? Okay, and again, it's just anticipating, making sure that we're not creating future problems by not having the conversations we should have. Okay, because I don't know about you guys, but in my experience, unless it's a birthday party, most people don't like surprises. Right? Okay. So I want to gather all that information together to make sure that my client knows, here are the things we might face over the next 30, 45 days. Okay. Everything goes smoother when nothing's a surprise. Okay. They know there might be appraisal issues. Well, nobody's upset by that. They may be upset that the appraisal came in low. They were hoping.
But they were warned.
But they were warned. They knew. They anticipated. Okay. And then once I've done all that, then I'm going to gather the documents I need together. Okay. And what those documents look like, kind of broke those up into a couple of different categories. I start out with the buyer's brokerage agreement in parentheses. So if you don't have the buyer's brokerage agreement already, you need to make sure that you get it done right now while you're putting that purchase and sale agreement together. Okay. Then the purchase and sale agreement is our primary document. Okay. That's your offer, and that is also your contract. Okay. The only difference between an offer and a contract is an offer is just signed by one party.
Mhm.
A contract is sold by two. It's the same documents. Okay. So we're putting together a proposed contract. Okay. That's what we're going to call an offer. And the purchase and sale agreement is the heart of it. Okay. That's our main document. And then there's other documents that are going to attach to that or be a supplement to that. okay? And when we talk about the exhibits that may be a part of it, every single contract is gonna have at least one exhibit. And that's gonna be our financing exhibit,
Mhm.
okay? We may not have anything else on this page, but we're either going to have a conventional loan, FHA loan, VA, USDA, or they're paying cash. There's not another option, okay? So it's gonna be one of those documents, okay? But we may have some others. A couple of the other contingencies that we may deal with are the sale or lease of buyer's property contingency. What that document says is, in order to buy your house, I need to sell my house first.
Hmm.
And if I can't, you're gonna give me my earnest money back, okay? Now, in today's market, that's a tough pill for a seller to swallow when they've got lots of easier deals sitting beside it, okay? But they do still happen, okay? There are still houses that sell that are contingent on the sale of the buyer's property. And so you may have that as something you need. And as we move back to a more normal and more balanced market, you're gonna see that document show up more and more, okay? The next one we may have is a backup contingency agreement, okay? That one's gonna happen less often, but we found a property our client loves, but they already have a contract in place on it. Well, we can submit a backup offer where we are second place, okay? If the first one, the primary contract terminates, then we become the primary contract and the property never goes back on the market. As soon as one ends, ours is now the one that's there, okay? And that's a great place to be in today's market, because if you guys get out and start working in today's market, you're gonna find there's a lot of competition for buyers to win a property. There's not a lot of competition for backup offers, okay? You'll have 20 people submit an offer on a property that's not under contract, and they accept one of them, and everybody disappears, okay? Well, now I potentially have the chance to submit a backup offer and have no competition, okay? It still needs to be a strong offer. It still needs to be a good offer, okay? They're not going to accept $30,000, $40,000 less than their primary, but I'm now not competing with a lot of other people. If I can lock that spot in for second place, do a lot of deals fall apart?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And so if I can get in that second place and secure that position, we may have a really good opportunity to slide in the back door, okay? So don't forget about that one. Our seller's disclosures, okay? Those are gonna be part of our contract, and we'll have gotten those from the listing agent, but we need to remember to put our exhibit letters on there, put our offer date on there, have our client sign it. Those become part of the contract. And then we've got some other miscellaneous stuff that show up that we need to pay attention to and make sure. If we're having the closing attorney acting as the holder of the earnest money, we need the document for that. At 510, if the seller is going to stay in the house after closing, we need a temporary occupancy agreement, okay? And one of the nice things, our purchase and sales agreement tells us on that first page, when the closing attorney is the holder, it tells you right there, if you read it, that means you need a F510 closing attorney acting as a holder. It tells you that if the house was built before 1978, we need a lead-based paint disclosure. If the seller is going to stay after closing and not transfer possession at closing, we need a temporary occupancy agreement, okay? So there's going to be clues that will help you with some of these, okay, but not all of these. You may also find that with some of these larger companies that they have their own sets of addendums, okay, that they're providing. Opendoor is a great example of that. If you're going to make an offer on an Opendoor property, they have their own set of special stipulations that you have to download, and you have to include it as part of your contract, okay? And we may have used the legal description. They may have provided us with a copy of the deed. So don't forget that if we mark that the legal description on page 1 is attached, then we need to make sure that we have that as an exhibit attached, okay? The deed booking page is the fastest and easiest way on most properties, but particularly if it's a condo, I'm much more comfortable with you guys using the copy of the deed. And if the seller provided a copy of the deed in the listing, go ahead and use that. That indicates to me that was their preference to begin with. Okay. Now, one of the things that GAR does for us is they make it easy for us to remember this. If you guys will just go to page the 7 of your contract, they've got a list of all the possible exhibits, okay, or the majority of the most common exhibits. Go through this list, especially when you're first writing contracts. Go through this list and ask yourself, do I need this? Okay, all cash sale exhibit, do I need that? No, we have a loan. Backup agreement contingency, do I need that? No, it's not a backup offer, it's a primary offer. Closing attorney acting as holder of earnest money. Yes, I need that because we've got more than $5,000 in earnest money. Community association disclosure. Yep, the seller gave me that. I need to include that. Go through line by line and ask yourself, does this need to be part of it or not part of it? And that way you won't accidentally leave one out that should have been there. Okay. Then comes time for us to build the offer. Okay. Now that I know all the documents I need, I've gathered them all together, I can start filling it out. Still haven't talked about buyer yet, okay? We haven't had that conversation yet. I was still in my research and gather mode, but I've pulled all my documents together into DocuSign that I need. I can start filling it out, okay? Do I know the address of the property?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do I know the legal description? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do I know what broker I work for and the broker the other agent works for?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I know the loan information that I needed from the pre-qualification letter and talking to the lender? Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead and fill all that stuff out. And in the other spaces, either leave it blank or put your recommendation in there. Okay. And I'm okay whichever way you want to go. Leave it blank if these are things I want to talk to the buyer before I fill it in, or put something in there that's going to be your recommendation. Okay. Like in today's market, what's my recommendation for sellers' contributions to closing costs?
Zero.
I can go ahead and put that in there. Okay. I'm going to make the buyer make me change that. Okay. If the listing agent didn't have a preference for closing attorney, what am I putting in there for closing attorney? You know, well, for me, it's O'Kelly and Sorahan Snellville. Okay. Because I want to close on the second floor. I don't want to have to drive someplace way off someplace else. Who's going to hold the earnest money? I may not know what the earnest money is, okay, but I'm going to have the closing attorney act. We're making an offer on a $300,000 property, okay. What do I anticipate for earnest money? You know, what needs to
At
be
least 3,000.
at least 3,000. Yeah. So go ahead and put 3,000 in there, and then when I have my conversation with my client, I can ask them, do we want to be more aggressive than that? Okay. And then we can always bump that up. So I'm going to fill out everything that I know. Okay. And when you're first doing this, guys, what you may want to do until you really know your documents and know where every blank is, print a hard copy out for your conversation. You still have your digital copy that you're going to edit saved in the computer, but print out a hard copy and highlight the areas that you need to have conversations around, or that you left blank. Because what I don't want you to do is call and talk to your client and we decide on the price, and we decide on the closing date, we decide on, but I forgot to ask them about a special stipulation, or I forgot to ask them about, did they have a preference on who the closing attorney is? I don't want to have to make 2 phone calls. I want to wrap everything up at one time with them, and then boom, be able to hit send, and they sign, and that's off. Okay. So as I go through and I complete it, I'm going to consider my recommendations. Okay. I've now looked at more information than they have, right? They saw the house and they saw the listing. I've looked at the comps, they haven't. I've talked to the listing agent, they haven't. Okay. So I probably have a better sense of what should we offer to get it accepted. So I want to consider what those are. I want to consider, are there any special stipulations that I'm going to need? Okay. And one of those being, if I know that it's going to take us offering over list price, or it's going to take us guaranteeing a certain amount over the appraised value, I want to go ahead and have that ready. Okay. And no, I don't want to have to go try and find that at a later date. And then I'm going to anticipate where am I probably going to get pushback from my client? You know, where are things that they're going to have questions about, or want to approach things differently. Okay. And be ready for that. And those just could be questions for, well, what is seller's contributions to closing? Or think about on page 2 and 3 of the FHA loan exhibit, where it talks about repairs and it talks about being connected to water and sewer. Okay. They may have questions about that. You know, what's this 1.75% insurance payment that's being financed into the loan? Okay. Be ready for those conversations, because they will come up. And then I'm going to call my client, and I'm going to go through and tell them, here's everything I did for you today to get us ready to put the offer. Here's the information I gathered together. Okay. Here's what the listing agent told me. Here's what the lender told me. Here's what I found when I went looking at comps for the property. Okay. Now that you know what I know, let's talk about what we want to put in our offer. Okay. And I'm going to walk them through. And I love sitting down with a client and finishing an offer together in person, but that doesn't happen a lot. So second choice, you know, don't be afraid. Once you're really comfortable with your contracts, don't be afraid to ask them to jump on a Zoom with you, and let's look at the contract together. You can share your screen and you can go through it just like we're doing right now, and you can fill in the boxes as we go. Okay. But very often it's just going to be on the phone. Okay. And so we need to be really ready and prepared for that, because most people want to sit there and listen to you and ah on the phone. That would be enough. Right. So I need to have my ducks in a row so I can move through this really quickly. You know, hey, here's what I found in comps. I think it's worth around this. The listing agent did tell me they have just one other offer right now. So if we're thinking the value's this, they listed it for this, how aggressive do we want to be? Okay. And then they'll tell me, you know, well, what if we offer 370? Okay. And it was listed at 350 and the comps were 350. You know, we're not done. I need to tell them, okay, we can do that, but I need you to know, here's where we may have issues down the road. This is what that means. Okay. They only want to offer 330. Great. We can do that. But let me tell you what this means. They already have one other offer. You know, we've seen 6 other properties in this neighborhood already sell more than this. And I know they've got 3 more showings this afternoon. And put this offer in, but understand that odds are we're just going to be set to the side. We're not going to get a call back and say, here's a counter offer. we're not even gonna be in the conversation, most likely at that price. Okay? Are you sure you don't wanna up that to at least whatever, okay? And try and coach them, because if they really like that, and then you may wanna ask them questions at the same time. You know, hey, is this just a house that you guys like and it will work and it'll meet your basic needs? Or is this like your dream home right now? Does this check all the boxes? Okay, because if this checks all the boxes, how are you going to feel if I call you back tomorrow and you found out you missed getting this house by $5,000? Are you gonna have regrets? You know, if you are, then let's go ahead and raise the price by 5,000. Okay, I don't want to be making that call tomorrow and you having regrets. If we offer 5,000 more and you get a call and you find out that you missed it by another 5,000, are you gonna have no? Okay, great. Then I think we're at the right price point. Okay, you're gonna be okay. We'll go find another house at that point. Have those conversations. Okay. And then answer their questions. They will have questions, you know, about the offer. And you should ask them if they have questions. And you should push to make sure that they're happy and comfortable with it. And once everybody's happy, everything's filled out, all the questions are answered, that's when we're gonna send it to them for signature, okay? And most of the time, it's gonna be a digital signature. And that's perfectly okay. But I want you guys to know and be prepared and think about, you are gonna have some clients that are technology challenged, okay? That sending for signature may mean getting in the car and driving to wherever they are to get that signature. And that's part of our job. That's part of what we signed up for. That's perfectly okay, okay? But let's try and teach them the technology first. So it makes life a little bit easier, all right? So now we've got an offer. It's been signed by us. It's been signed by the listing agent. What do we do with it? Okay. Well, the thing that I encourage you guys to do is don't share it inside of your signing system. Okay. Don't send contracts to the listing agent through DocuSign or through Remind or through Transaction Desk. Create a PDF. So download it, print it to a PDF. If the system downloads it as separate documents, okay, because sometimes the different systems, instead of downloading, here's the purchase and sale agreement, Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, all in one file, it'll give you 4 different files. Well, there's a website out there called mergepdf.com that you can give it the 4 files and it will create one PDF from it. It's a free site, doesn't cost you anything, but that way when I send that contract to that other listing agent, it's one file. Everything is together as one long document, okay? And that's the way we prefer to see it. That's the way that listing agent is going to prefer to see it. They don't have to jump through 4 different files trying to figure out, okay, well, did they give me a temporary occupancy agreement? Let me go find that. Does that match this? No, we want to just scroll up and down to find what we need to be able to compare the offer, especially when we've got 18 offers. Okay, I want every offer just to be one file. Now, I don't mind if you guys put your pre-qualification or your proof of funds as a different file, but your contract should be one single file. And I want to send it through email, okay? And the reason I say it's so important is I don't use Remind. You send it to me in Remind, I don't want to have to figure out how do I download your document out of Remind. If you send it to me in Transaction Desk, I don't use Transaction Desk. I don't want to have to figure out how do I get your document out of Transaction Desk, because even if my client loves your offer and wants to accept it, I've got to get it into my DocuSign to send it to. I don't want to figure out your Remind, your Dotloop, your other system. I just want to be able to load my PDF and go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Make life as easy as possible for the agent on the other side and just hope that they do the same thing. Okay. The other reason I like sending it through email instead of through the system is I get to control the subject line and the body. Okay. So I can, in all caps, put offer attached, 123 Main Street. Okay. What email do you think they're going to open up first? The one that says, Trey Hunt shared a document with you in .lu. Or offer attached, 123 Main Street.
Offer attached.
Offer attached, absolutely. So that's why email is so important. Now, in the body of my email, I do ask the other agent to confirm that they got it. Okay. And if I don't get a response back in a couple of hours, I will shoot them a text or an email just asking them for confirmation that they received it. Okay. Because I don't know about you guys, I get over 100 emails a day. It is possible that something gets slid in there. I'm also human. Every once in a while, I mistype an email address, okay, and it didn't make it to its intended destination. So I want to make sure I'm protecting my client that document got where it's supposed to be, okay? Now, the last thing on this list, in today's competitive market, having our offer stand out is really important. Okay, one way that you can help your offer stand out is ask the lender, your buyer's lender, hopefully it's one of your preferred lenders, to call that listing agent or text that listing agent, email that listing, have the lender reach out and tell them just how strong they are. Yes, they got a pre-qualification letter, okay, but those are a dime a dozen, they happen all the time. That lender reaching out to them tells that other agent that they're going to be accessible, they're going to be easy to work with, and they're on top of their game. Okay, that can help your offer stand out, especially if we're competing against cash, or maybe we've got an FHA, but we're fighting against a conventional loan. What makes our offer better? Well, it's the quality of the people involved in the transaction. We all want the same thing. We want to get to the closing table. The other agent does, I do, the lender does, because none of us get paid if it doesn't get there. So the lenders are ally in this. Leverage them to help you stand out. Okay. And then lastly, polite follow-up. You know, you gave them 2 days, you gave them 4 days to consider the offer. You know, if you have not heard anything back from them, you know, give them enough time. Don't beat them up. You don't need to text them every 2 hours and say, did you decide yet? Did you decide yet? But have a polite follow-up, you know, and see where you stand, okay? If you end up not being the offer that they accepted, still have a conversation with the other agent, because we still have a fiduciary duty to our buyer, right? And I want to give them feedback, okay? If our offer wasn't accepted, I want to know why, okay? Not because of me or any judgment on me, okay? But my client may need to be educated, okay? They may have, because the offer was their offer, right? We talked, so if we didn't offer enough, if there was they're just not going to accept any offer with a contingency, a sale or lease of buyer's property contingency, you know, that just reinforces the conversation that I've already had with them, that we really need to sell their home before we go buy a home. Okay. Well, now they're like, well, we really want to find the home we want to buy first. Okay. Well, we can try that. Okay. But it'll help me train them to be a better buyer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Good. And guys, that was all that I had planned for that. So,
Awesome.
do you guys have any questions that I can answer that have to do with that time period of getting ready to put that contract together?
Yeah, I have one. So back whenever we were talking about putting down a sell price, and you had mentioned, well, if they're approved for 400 and they have a pre-approval for 400, but you're only offering 310, do you so you had said that you would want the pre-approval to show a lower number so that they don't think there's as much room for negotiation. Would a lender be able to give you another pre-approval saying they're approved for 320?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a simple phone call, a 2-minute edit on their computer, and boom, it's in your inbox. That is
Okay.
fast.
Yeah, I was just checking to make sure.
Yep. No, that's a great question. Yeah. And again, remember, especially if you're working with your preferred lenders, they're your ally. They want not just this deal to work out, they want every future deal you ever do. And so they will be very accommodating and want to help you any way they possibly can. So
Okay.
because it's not untrue. If I'm pre-qualified for 400,
You're also pre-qualified for 320.
absolutely. So it's not like I'm asking them to do anything unethical or untruthful. I just want to present a different face.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
good question. All right, guys. Anything else before we wrap up for today?
Mm-mm.
I think that was all.
Do you like my
That
little?
was awesome.
I love that little graphic. I thought that was a lot of fun today. Keep seeing her in the corner. So, all right. Well, guys, as always, if you need me, call me, text me, email me. I always love to help.
Thank you, Trey.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.